Let me thank all of the leaders of faith as well as civic leaders that have joined us today, and all of you. It means so much to have leaders of different faiths and religions united in common cause to bring justice to an unjust situation. We're gathered here, unfortunately, not out of joy, but out of heartache and sadness. Many of us feared that if elected, President Trump would trample the rights of immigrants. And since his election, he has made our worst fears a reality. Already he's ended DACA and jeopardized hundreds of thousands of dreamers across America. Already he's signed executive orders allowing ICE to tear immigrant parents away from their American-born children outside of schools and hospitals and even places of worship. Already he's stoked fear to justify banning Muslims from our country and degrade human beings based on the color of their skin and the country of their origin. And now, just when we thought it couldn't get any worse, he has torn thousands of innocent children from their parents through his zero-tolerance policy. Well, I call it a zero-humanity policy, a zero-compassion policy, and it adds up to an unacceptable and immoral policy. It is unacceptable to me as the son of refugees who came to this country because they long to be free. It is unacceptable to me as a Catholic who is appalled by what's being done in the name of my Christian faith. As a father who knows that no love is more universal than your love for your child. Anyone who has known that love knows that these parents are living their worst nightmare. Let's be clear. These parents didn't just decide to journey thousands of dangerous miles for a vacation. These families are seeking asylum, protection from unimaginable prosecution and persecution and violence. Seeking asylum is not a crime under our law, but President Trump has made it so. The trauma and anguish that is inflicted by separating children from their parents is a direct result of the administration's decision to criminalize asylum seekers fleeing for their lives. It is a reckless abandonment, not only of children, but of policies embraced by past administrations, Democratic and Republican alike. President Trump falsely claimed that this cruel policy was forced upon him. It is not. There is no law that requires such an action to take place. It is his zero-tolerance policy. And we know it was unveiled with much fanfare by Attorney General Jeff Sessions back in April. It is a policy that is motivated to instigate fear. It is based upon bigotry and by the misguided idea that separating children from their families will deter migrants from traveling to our southern border in search of safety. Well, I say it is impossible to deter a mother from protecting her son from forced inscription into a gang. It is impossible to deter a father from trying to protect his daughter from rape and torture. It is impossible to deter a family so fearful for their safety that they have traveled thousands of miles to seek safety in the United States. So today we come together to say there is no way to justify such profound injustice. There is no way. Now, I was dismayed to hear the Attorney General try and do so by quoting Romans 13, saying asylum seekers should, quote, obey the laws of the government because God has ordained them for the purpose of that order. Well, as we have seen, I leave the scripture to the faith leaders here today. He obviously skipped over Romans 12 that speaks about the stranger among us, and you were a stranger in Egypt. But beyond that, that suggestion of Romans 13 was used to actually justify slavery in our country. It is not the type of scripture that we understand is the essence of our collective faith. So let me just say, Mr. Attorney General, I have not been ordained by a higher power to serve in the Senate. But every day I put my faith in God that I may do right by the voters who elected me, by the people of this country, and by the values that made America a beacon of freedom and hope across the world. Let's be clear about the executive order just signed the other day by President Trump. It doesn't end the zero tolerance policy. It doesn't stop criminalizing asylum seekers, nor does it address how to reunite the thousands of young children already separated from their parents. All the president's executive order does is force families into indefinite detention as they pursue the asylum process, as if the solution of keeping children out of detention is to put entire families in detention. That is not a solution to our issue. Everything we know about child welfare tells us that detention is unsuitable for children. And guess what? It is totally unnecessary. There are more humane alternatives to detention, alternatives that not only keep families together through their asylum proceedings, but also save taxpayers millions of dollars. So it's time this president reverse this heartless and horrific policy of prosecuting families criminally seeking asylum. It is time he let them follow the process established by our laws. Now is not the time, as the president has suggested, to cut off aid to countries like El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. Making conditions in Central America further deteriorate will not do anything to deter families fleeing their homes in search of safety. These people leave because their choices stay and die, or flee and have a chance at living. Today we call on the administration to do everything that it has in its power, and it has significant power, to reunite the 2,300 infants, toddlers, and teens they took from their parents at the southern border immediately. Begin immediately. Today we call for an end to indefinite incarceration of asylum seekers. And today we stand together as Christians and Jews and Muslims and as everyday human beings, saying that once and for all families belong together. Because the America we know doesn't put children in cages. The America we know doesn't rip babies from their mother's arms. And the America we know doesn't treat families fleeing from criminals as if they themselves were criminals. We live in a diverse America, a tolerant America, a generous America. So no, we will not let this president tear apart the diverse fabric that binds us together as one people. We will not allow this president to convince us to fear toddlers and middle schoolers and parents seeking refuge and safety as a threat to the national security of the United States. And we will not, under any circumstances, give up our quest to reunite children with their parents who love them, or abandon our commitment to basic human dignity. So thank you for raising your voices. It is only because of your voices that we began to see a small change, but it is not sufficient enough. We must reunite every child with their parents. We must stop indefinite detention of families, and we must get back to the nation of who we've been.